Hello and welcome back to the safe combination tutorial for Ren'Py, part 5, and let's just jump straight back into it, shall we? So in this video, we are going to make it possible to be able to open up the safe by entering in the correct combination of numbers with the dial. And to do that, we're going to create two dictionaries. One dictionary is going to contain all of the correct combinations for the different safes, and the other one is just going to keep track of the values that the user has already entered in. And then we're going to compare if the combination that the user has entered in is equal to the correct combination for that safe. So let's go back down into the start label. And in this other variable section, we're going to go ahead and create these new variables. So the first one we're going to call combinations. And this one, as I said before, is going to contain all of the correct combinations for the different safes. And this is going to be a dictionary, so we're going to add two curly brackets, like so. And the first item of this dictionary is going to have a key called safe1. And then the value is going to be the combination that we want to be correct for safe1. And this value is going to contain a list, so we're going to add two square brackets, like so. And for this tutorial, we're only going to work with 4 numbers for each combination. So the first combination is going to be 5, 15, 47, and 63. But you can of course choose any numbers that you want. And then we can go ahead and add another safes combination. So we're going to add a comma and then safe 2. And this one is also going to contain a list as the value. And the numbers for this is going to be 23, 5, 75, and 44. And then we're going to add another variable. So we're going to create a new line. And this one is going to be called completed combination numbers, like so. And this one is also going to contain a dictionary. So we're going to add two curly brackets, like so. And this one is going to be filled as the user is choosing numbers on the dial. And then the next variable we're going to call combination check. And this one is going to contain a string value with the text correct or wrong, depending on if the user got the combination correctly or wrongly. But as the initial value, we're going to say none, like so. The next variable is going to be called current safe. And this one is going to represent the current safe that the player is trying to unlock. And for this, we're going to enter 1 as the initial value. The last variable is going to be called combination length. And this one is going to keep track of how many values that the user has currently entered with the dial. And this is going to be 0 as the initial value. And then we're actually going to need one more variable. And we're going to create that in this dial variables section. And this one we're going to call dial changed. And this is going to keep track of if the dial has changed the value since the last time we turned it. And this value is going to be false as the default value. And then we're going to scroll back up into the events function right here. And then first of all, instead of our mouse motion event detection right here, we're going to make sure that we are setting the dial change variable to true as long as the dial text is not equal to the previous dial text, which means that the dial has changed the value since the last time we turned it. So instead of here, we're going to say dial changed is equal to true. And then we need to make this into a global, so we're going to scroll all the way back up. And then we're going to say up here, global dial changed. And now we're going to go into the mouse button up event detection right here. And in here we are first of all going to check if the dial has changed. So we're going to say if dial changed is equal to true, or we could also just say if dial changed, like so. So if the user has released the mouse button and the dial has changed to a new value since the last time, then we're going to add the value that has been selected on the dial into the completed combination numbers dictionary. So first of all, we need to determine how many values that the user has already selected, because we only want to keep adding the numbers that has been selected on the dial as long as the user has not yet selected 4 values. So for that we're going to say if combination length is less than 4, and the first thing we're going to do if this is true, that the combination length is less than 4, is to reset the dial change variable back to false. So we're going to say dial changed is equal to false, and in this case we're also going to reset the combination check variable back to none. So we're going to say combination check is equal to none, and then we also need to make this into a global since we haven't done that yet. So we're going to create a new line up here, and then we're going to say global combination check, and then we'll go back down. And now we're going to make sure that we're adding the value that the user has selected on the dial into the completed combination numbers dictionary. And to do that, we are first of all going to need to check if this dictionary is empty or not, because if we haven't already added an item to it, then we're going to need to do that first before we append the value that the user has selected. So for that we're going to say if len completed combination numbers is equal to 0. So if this dictionary does not have an item in it already, then we're going to say completed combination numbers, and then 2 square brackets. And now instead of these 2 brackets, we're going to create a new key for this item, and this key is going to have the name of the current safe that the user is trying to unlock. And to get the correct safe, we're going to create a new local variable to this function, and we can do that up here just underneath this dial rotate is equal to false line. So for that we're going to say safe is equal to, and then 2 quotation marks like so, and then instead of here we're going to say safe underscore and then 2 curly brackets. And now we're going to format this string so that the 2 curly brackets instead is going to contain a number representing the current safe. So for that we're going to say dot format and then current safe, because as you might remember, we created this current safe variable that contains the number of the safe that we are currently in. So now we're just making sure that we are swapping these 2 curly brackets with the number that represents the current safe. And then we're going to use this variable that we just created instead of these 2 square brackets, like so. And then we're going to say is equal to 2 square brackets, like so. So now we have created a new item inside of the dictionary containing a key with the name of the current safe together with the value that is an empty list. And now we're just going to make sure that we are appending the value that the user has selected on the dial to the list that is the value for this item. So for that we're going to say completed combination numbers, 2 square brackets, and then safe dot append, and then we're going to add the value from the dial text variable. So we're going to say dial text, like so. But now if this completed combination numbers dictionary is not empty, but it already has an item in it, then we're going to say else. So in this case, we just need to append the value to the list inside of the dictionary. So that we can just go ahead and copy paste this line right here underneath here, like so. So now the last thing we're going to do inside of this if statement is to make sure that we are incrementing the combination length variable by 1, because now we've added one of the values for the combination. So for that, we're going to create a new line and then go inwards once in the indentations, like so. And then we're going to say combination length plus equals to 1, like so. And now we're going to create another if statement, but this time we're going to check if the combination length variable is instead exactly equal to 4, because if it is, then we know that the player has entered in all of the required values for a combination. So for that we're going to create a new line and then go inwards once in the indentations, like so. And then we're going to say elif combination length is equal to 4, and instead of here we're going to check if the combination that the player has just entered in is the correct one. And to do that we're going to check if the item inside of the completed combination numbers dictionary that contains the key with the correct safe that the player is currently in has a value that is exactly identical to the correct combination stored inside of the combinations dictionary. So to do that, we're going to say if completed combination numbers, and then save inside of the 2 square brackets is equal to combinations, and then save, like so. So if these 2 items values are exactly the same, then we know that the user has entered in the correct combination. And in such a case, we are going to, first of all, as we have done before, reset the dial changed variable to false. So we're going to say dial changed is equal to false, and then we're going to reset the combination length variable. So we're going to say combination length is equal to 0, and then we're going to reset the completed combination numbers dictionary as well. So we're going to say completed combination numbers is equal to an empty dictionary, and then we're going to set the combination check variable contain a string with the value correct, because now we have entered in the correct combination. So we're going to say combination check is equal to correct, like so. So now if the combination is the correct one, as we are checking here, then we're resetting these variables back to their initial values, and then we're setting the combination check variable to contain the value correct, so that we can check it later on when we want to indicate to the user whether or not they got the combination correct or incorrect. But now if the user has instead entered in a wrong combination, then we're going to set this combination check variable to contain the value wrong instead. So for that, we're going to create a new line, and then go inwards once in the indentations, like so. And then we're going to say else, and then we're going to do the same thing as we have done up here, namely resetting these variables and then setting the combination check variable to a value. So we can go ahead and copy paste all of these lines and then paste them inside of here. And then we're just going to change this correct value to instead say wrong, like so. And now since we are changing some of these variables and haven't made them into globals yet, we're going to go ahead and do that now. So we're going to create a new line underneath here, and we're going to say global combination length is one of them, and then global completed combination numbers, like so. And now we're just going to make sure that we are restarting the interaction after we have changed all of these variables, so that we can observe the changes happening in our game. So for that, we're going to create a new line underneath this else statement that we just created. And then we're going to go inwards in the indentations until we reach the same indentation as this if statement right here. So 1, 2, 3, like so. And then we're going to say renpy dot restart interaction, like so. Now we're actually going to need to make a quick correction to the code, and that is with this else if statement right here. So this is going to have to be a normal if statement instead. So we're just going to say if, like so, so that we have an if statement right here and a following if statement right here. And the reason why we're doing that is just to make sure that this if statement is going to run directly after the combination length variable has hit the value 4. Because if this is an else if statement, then technically this if statement is not going to run until we release the mouse button the 5th time. And that is not going to work correctly, of course. So we're just making sure that this is going to run directly after the combination length variable has the value 4. So now that we have that done, we're going to make sure that this is working correctly. And for that, we're just going to add a print statement instead of these 2 if statements right here. So after this combination check is equal to correct, we're going to say print to print to the debug log instead of renpy. And then we're going to say combination check, and then the same instead of this else statement, print combination check, like so. So now we're going to save our changes and then launch the game to see if this is working correctly. So now let's go ahead and rotate the dial to choose 4 values for our combination, and we're going to make sure that every time we have selected a value that we are releasing the mouse button, just to make sure that that value is going to be stored. And then once we have selected all the 4 values, we're going to open up the debug log to have a look if anything has been printed out there. So let's go ahead and do that now. So now I'm going to open up the debug log, and as we can see, we now have a text here printed out that says wrong. So that means that we got the combination wrong. So we know that that is working correctly. So let's go ahead and go back into the code and see what else we can do. So the last thing we're going to do for this part is to add some sound effects to indicate whether the user got the combination right or wrong. So instead of these print statements, we're going to add a renpy play function call. So we're going to remove that, and then we're going to say renpy.play, and then we're going to add the file path. So we're going to say audio, and then success.og, and then comma, and then sound, which is going to be the channel where we want to play this sound effect. And then we're going to do the same thing for the else statement, so we can copy paste this like so, and then we're just going to change the sound, so we're going to say error.og like so. So now let's go ahead and save our changes and then launch the game again to see what this looks like. So this time let's go ahead and try to get the correct combination and see if we can hear the success sound play. So for that, we're going to start with the value 5, and then 15, then 47, and then 63. And as we can hear there, we heard the success sound, which means that we got the combination right. So that is working correctly. So in the next part, we're going to continue by adding the handle that should go on this side with the little indicator that is going to glow either red or green, depending on if we got the combination right or wrong. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.